and I'm going to show the people of Gotham their city doesn't belong to the criminals and the corrupt. People need dramatic examples to shake them out of apathy, and I can't do that as Bruce Wayne. As a man, I'm flesh and blood. I can be ignored, I can be destroyed, but as a symbol, I can be incorruptible. I can be everlasting.
What symbol?
Something elemental, something terrifying.
Hello and welcome to The Road to the Batman. What do you want to watch is look back at the Dark Knight's standalone film history ahead of his next big screen iteration. I'm Ashley Hobley. Joining me today on this episode, Don Blight.
Thank God we're back to good Batman movies.
Yeah. We're on the home stretch.
Certainly are.
Not long to go. Alright, so if you haven't figured it out, today we're talking about the first of Christopher Nolan's films, Batman Begins. So please be aware we'll be freely discussing anything and everything about the plot themes in any of the films, so if you haven't watched it, come back later. With that said, let's jump to our discussion of Batman Begins.
How do you know my name?
The world is too small for someone like Bruce Wayne to disappear.
Your parents' death was not your fault.
My parents deserve justice. I cannot let that pass.
If you make yourself more than just a man, then you become something else entirely.
Which is?
A legend, Mr. Wayne.
Master Wayne, are you coming back for long, sir?
As long as it takes to show the people of Gotham their city doesn't belong to the criminals and the corrupt.
He's here. Who? The Batman.
Directed by Christopher Nolan, screenplay by Christopher Nolan, David S. Goyer, story by David S. Goyer, based on characters appearing in comic books published by DC Comics, Batman by Bob Kane with Bill Finger, starring Christian Bale, Michael Caine, Liam Neeson, Katie Holmes, Gary Oldman, Cillian Murphy, Tom Wilkinson, Rutger Hauer, Ken Watanabe, and Morgan Freeman. After witnessing his parents' death, Bruce learns the art of fighting to confront injustice. When he returns to Gotham as Batman, he must stop a secret society that intends to destroy the city. Dylan, what are your memories of seeing Batman Begins for the first time, and what was your impressions watching it this time?
I think it was, I don't know how much after release it was, but it was the DVD home release. At the time, I was in, I think maybe grade 7, just high school, something like that. It would have been, I definitely wasn't into comic books. I wasn't I didn't really, I'd watch the movies come out, I was watching, at the time we were watching X-Men and Spider-Man and whatever's around that point, but I wasn't, deep enough into caring about comic books that I was, or movies in general at this point in life. Actually, I'm still, probably a year or so away from starting to care a bit more, but I was just not really caring, I'd watch stuff when it came out, sort of thing, and I think maybe dad or someone was like, oh, there's a new Batman movie, we're going to watch that tonight. So that's what we did, because of course I'd seen all the other ones as a kid and growing up and whatever else. So watch Batman Begins, and yeah, I remember it being holy shit, I think especially coming off, it's serious, in a way that's not Batman Burton serious, where it's that's trying to be serious, but it's still in a sort of comic booky world. It's still in this Tim Burton fantasy land sort of thing, which works. And again, I like those films, we just discussed them, but this is Batman but realistic, which was I'd never seen at that point, and that was sort of mind blowing. And I had not even read a Batman comic in my life at this point, so to a degree, I put a lot of me starting to read comic books, because the first comic books I ever tracked down were Batman ones, and it was only because how much I liked Batman Begins and subsequently Dark Knight and everything that sort of kickstarted me being man, I want to read Batman comics, and then sort of spiraled from there to read novels things, of course. So really good memories. I think it holds up really well. I think it's the weakest. I don't know if that's a hot take, but it's the weakest of the trilogy from memory anyway. We'll see how I go with the rewatch. And it's definitely the one I've watched the least. If I've ever chucked a random one on over the years, it's only ever been Dark Knight or Dark Knight Rises. So, and I think it runs into some pacing issues in the second half. I think the first half, the slow, methodical Bruce Wayne story stuff, I think is really good. That's the first hour nearly. I think once we get to the Batman stuff, the pacing goes a little bit all over the place. And sort of the rush to the big villain finale is like whatever, in my opinion. Like, I don't hate it, I don't love it or whatever. It's just like sort of like it's a finish, but it's the least interesting part of the movie to me. It's more just the Bruce story. Like, I almost feel like it didn't even need a villain, but I guess it did. But yeah, it's like it's a weird one. So, but yeah, I really like it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't see this one in cinemas either. Like, I'm pretty sure, from memory, I watched it like on my year 12, like end of year, like almost schoolies kind of thing. My parents had been to Malaysia and they got like a copy of Batman Begins while they're over there. So, you know, probably not the most authentic copy. But yeah, that's the first time I saw the movie. It's kind of weird that like it completely was off my radar or whatever. It's like, I don't recall it even coming out in cinemas. But of course it did. It was like, but it's interesting. Obviously, it was the ninth highest grossing movie of that year, with the highest grossing being Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. But yeah, I really loved this movie. Really like this movie. I think, you know, like you said, it's like this realistic take on Batman, and like they kind of found in this film, I feel like they found the perfect balance between Bruce Wayne and Batman. Like, even though it's a little on the nose at times and like flat out saying it, I feel like they got the dynamic of Batman and Bruce so perfectly this movie. I think they,
even though it's sort of memed on now with the, you know, like,
yeah, again, you know, swear to me.
Yeah.
But no, I was more referring to like at the end of the movie. She's like, this is your mask.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. But yeah, I think, you know, obviously you get that really good build with him like learning his skills and like kind of coming into his own as getting the origins of Batman. They're very much year one kind of starting point. I think, you know, you've got Liam Neeson there as like, I think this is before Taken or after Taken.
It would be around the same. It might even be the same year, to be honest. Let me just do a quick check, or maybe like a year.
Because it's like it's kind of in the middle of his
Taken's 2008, so Taken's 3 years after this.
Yeah, so this like foreshadowed his turn into an action hero, especially considering he was like a very serious, dramatic actor and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think obviously, you know, Christian Bale. Probably the best Batman we've had. It's like he's kind of, obviously he's had the best run of films. I'd argue. But yeah, he's surrounded by interesting people. He's got obviously Michael Caine playing Alfred, not the same as Michael Gough in the last couple of films, but like he's got a bit. He's just Michael Caine. What else could you want? You know, he gives him the hard time, and he also has that paternal figure kind of element to himself as well. And it's like,
haven't given up on me there, sir. Never.
Yeah.
Never.
Why did we fall?
So we can get back up, sir.
So we can get back up again. Yeah, and then of course the addition of Morgan Freeman as Lucius Fox as well. I think is such a pivotal part of the series as well. Like kind of explaining how he gets holy shit. But yeah, I think, you know, it's definitely the most realistic and interesting world. Yeah, I think Gotham in this is really interesting because obviously we're coming off Joel Schumacher's version of Gotham, in which they've got a guy holding a statue of a person holding up an observatory, whereas this very much feels like a real city. Even though it's got this weird monorail thing that, you know, we never see again in any of the other movies.
Because it's destroyed and they never bother fixing it.
They destroy one section, so they just demolish the rest of it.
Just demolish the whole thing.
Sense. Yeah, it kind of just made everything feel realistic and important, and like, you know, we didn't have like these over the top villains as well, so, you know, it's very much about the crime. And that kind of thing, but still, it's tied into the whole Ra's al Ghul thing, which I think is really well done and pulled. I feel like the villainous plot was pulled together pretty well.
Yeah, I feel like I don't love Raz, like Liam Neeson as Raz. Just I hate the whole Asian character bait and switch thing. You know what I mean? That's a only like sort of weird like thing in the rewatch. It's like if you did it's no different than they did it with Doctor Strange, the bait and switch again.
That's
you
true.
know? Yeah, it's like that's a weird like just stereotype.
But that's
thing.
different because Raz has always been like a white guy from memory in the comics.
I actually don't know what. I just hate the bait and switch though. But Ra's al Ghul ethnicity. Let's see, Google. Ra's al Ghul Ra's al Ghul's ethnic origins may be described East Asian in accordance with Birth of the Demon and Resurrection of Ra's al Ghul. So, East Asian. So,
It's
not white.
Yeah, not white, but you know, he looks pretty white in some of the comics. Yeah, I didn't mind. I mean, because Liam Neeson. I mean, it's a title, so I mean, maybe it was Raz. Maybe it was Raz that we saw in the thing, but then he died,
No,
and then
it was
Ducard took on the mantle.
no. Even the movie makes it very obvious the entire time.
Yeah,
Like,
he's the actual one behind everything.
yeah. The other thing I was gonna say, Falcone in this, I appreciate. Like, I think Tom Wilkinson's like really. I appreciate his almost over the top performance at times. I think, especially in that meeting,
the
like
diner scene. Yeah,
the diner scene, he's like writing a line. I feel there, like playing this very like the accent and everything. But I like it.
I also enjoy Christian Bale's performance as like dweeby Bruce Wayne, like before he.
Oh, like
He
at the
gets-
start, like when
yeah.
he's like wants to shoot
Joe Chill.
whatever they
yeah.
call him there, Joe Chill. Do they call him Joe Childers?
Yeah.
Do they? Okay. Yeah. Over baggy clothes and his
Yeah.
whole attitude and demeanor is a lot different to later. But it's like, well, that's Bruce Wayne, I guess. And then he goes away and he becomes Batman.
Yeah.
And he comes back as Batman. And then the new version of Bruce is this philanthropist, playboy. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's pretending to be Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. So
Yeah, kind of.
more or less.
I mean, it's Alfred's idea, really. You know, if you
Sure.
pretend, but
I love how easy Alfred is to buy into all this too.
it's like,
Like, whatever.
This is. He's never like, this is a bad idea.
He's like, it's better than you like.
At least you're
Going
here.
away
I
again,
think that's
or
what
like,
I feel like. That's the main thing. It's like, at least you're
Yeah.
here, and I'm
It's like,
seeing you.
here you're doing something. Yeah.
You know, even though he became super rich because apparently Bruce left all his money in his name.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also love the scheme to buy back Wayne Enterprises behind the scenes. Just, you know, that guy getting his comeuppance is beautiful.
Yeah. Lots of little offshore bank accounts. Secret
Yeah.
to winning any financial war.
Yeah.
It's what movies have taught me.
I mean, in real life, you just get a giant bunch of money and then buy a company out.
It's true.
You know, that's what they do nowadays. Not like in the back of the day when Vivendi was trying to buy out Ubisoft.
Shout outs.
Yeah, video game history. How do you feel about Katie Holmes in this movie? It's just kind of odd. She's
Yeah. well,
she's
she only does one
she's
movie,
solid,
so-
but it's like it's kind of yeah.
Yeah, it's I think she's good. My brain at this point is just so trained to hit, like
It's not. You're supposed to be Maggie Gyllenhaal.
It's Maggie. Yeah, it's like in my mind, I think of that character. I think of Maggie. So it's not that her performance is bad. It's just, and it's not like it's not even that Batman has to be played by the same actor. Like something. It's just because in this Nolan trilogy, my mind associates Nolan Batman, Maggie Gyllenhaal, not Katie. So, but yeah, I think she's good. I think she lays the groundwork that Maggie picks up and uses in the following film. Like the character tonally and like personality wise and everything like always matches up. So and Katie did that, so she gets the props, I guess.
Yeah, she gets gets her moments and that kind of thing. You know. What about Cillian Murphy as Scarecrow? I mean,
I love Cillian Murphy in anything, so he's really good. I think I like this version of Scarecrow. I like the way he interacts with Katie Holmes, especially. I think is always sort of fun. The very smeary, smarmy little little prick he is when she comes up and all that sort of stuff. And I just love how he also sort of you see that slight transformation when he puts on the, like, especially in that scene when Batman shows up and he like rips the hood off and he's like, he's here. It's the that's like he's being a little bit more villainous, like the tonally or whatever, like a bit more comic booky, which you don't usually see, but without it being silly or whatever. And then when he's doing the doctor role, he's a bit more, oh, this one's definitely insane, all that, that sort of stuff.
Just fun phenomenal. Love his reaction when he's like under the influence of the fear toxin.
Well, his eyes
Sorry,
are
the
just...
doctor's not in anymore.
Oh, yeah.
We'll even make it a point.
Yeah.
And then he gets taken out by Taz to the face. So,
yeah, love that.
Yeah. But at least he comes back. He's running. He's in all of them, right? From memory?
I think, yeah. Well, he's at the start of the next one, and then...
Yep.
Like, he's at, like, the midpoint in the third one, or whatever it is, so...
Yep. Yeah. How do we feel about Christopher Nolan? Obviously, this is his first of these films, the first big action movie. Consider that he did, following Memento and then Insomnia before this. It's kind of crazy that Warner Brothers kind of gave the keys to the castle to this guy. Which was, might be the biggest payoff in all directing choices of all time. I can't think of any other one that's been more successful.
I think he shows, and everything in this film, it's like Batman Begins, but also Nolan Begins to a degree, because just from the way he shoots his action sequences, the way Zimmer's music ties into the emotion and elements, and that music gets louder as the thing goes. Like, I feel like the action sequence get both more intense, but also he lets them have moments like this film shows where he quite happy to have the character sort of sit there at first and like build up, and then the action starts, music kicks in. Like I picture a Nolan movie. Like, you could show me a movie and like I've never heard it, seen it before, and then I swear I could be like at the end be like, Nolan directed that. Because I feel like there's almost just a playbook to sort of how I picture him now, especially like action movies, just the build up, the music kicks in,
can't hear anything.
Action. Yeah, like I just that, and you get elements of here, but it's not the full thing. The next two films is the moments. Like, there's so many moments, especially like, and obviously Dark Knight's one that most people have watched a lot, but like obviously I haven't watched that for a few years at this point, to be honest, but I watched it a lot in high school, like especially those first few years after it came out. We'd watch it a lot, and it's just, even think about stuff like that, like the car chase, bike chase sort of thing in that one. You think about like with the Joker and everything. You think about the time where he goes to, where is it, Japan or fucking wherever,
Hong Kong,
and like Hong Kong, sorry, and then like the build up, the shot with him coming off, the way the music kicks in as he jumps off. Like, obviously, I'm jumping here a little bit, but I'm just saying, like, a lot of those things, those big moments, I can think about the sort of tease here. So you think about him escaping with the bats and everything, and the way that sort of builds up, and the music kicks in, but not as loud, in that sort of sequence, and things like that. So yeah, it's Batman Begins, but Nolan Begins also. Yeah.
So I think the other thing I appreciate, especially going back and watching this, is like there's still, even though it's a lot more serious and stuff, there's still like moments of humor throughout the film. Obviously, you got the Alfred cracking one-liners, and
I was gonna say Alfred is the comic relief. So.
But then you've got like dumb. My favorite just dumb joke is like he's in the tumbler and he's like reversing to jump off that car park roof. He just goes into this compact space.
Gotta get all the way down there to fire that one missile and drive forward for some reason.
Yeah, the tumbler. I mean, that's a great addition to this series and kind of just differentiates it from those other four films. Like, this Batmobile's like probably what an actual like Batman figure would probably want. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because in this universe it makes perfect sense, where it's like, oh, there's this department, it's like a tank, he claims it, so you're like, that makes perfect sense. But then I'm thinking about the one we're doing this in the lead up to, the Batman, and like literally just has a fucking charger or whatever the hell it is. That's realistic also, but from a different end of realistic.
It's
you know what I mean? Like,
realistic as in he didn't have.
Yeah, he doesn't have he doesn't have a tank. He doesn't have a tank in the Wayne department.
Tech guy,
yeah. So it's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else you want to touch on about the film?
Not really. I mean, this is the thing.
We've got the the suit, which obviously gives him a little bit more mobility. There's a lot more fighting in this than we've seen in the previous ones.
That's another thing. He gets a lot more mobility for 2 and 3, and then the fight scenes get a lot better for the sequels because he gets that more mobility. I think it's the next one, Dark Knight, where he can suddenly move his head. So that's like the whoa moment. But yeah, I love the suit. I think it's like
you even get like more of him like popping up places, like doing the scares, jump scares, and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just like, I feel like this movie is just a ground. It's a really good setup for the universe and like a good origin story for Batman and a proper origin story, because we never really actually got one in the previous 4 films we've watched here. Like they give you the whole flashback thing, but you never got you never got a Bruce Wayne to Batman story until this movie, like a proper one. So that's just I think that's the best part of this movie. It's actually not the Batman stuff. The Batman stuff's good, but I think what the best stuff is the Bruce Wayne stuff in this movie. And then the sequel is Batman, you know? And I think that's obviously done on purpose. It's like this movie's Bruce Wayne, the sequel's Batman. So
yeah, like you said, I think they did the Bruce thing well. I think they utilized the flashbacks really well, like building up that like family elements. Like I don't think we got like a proper like how the Waynes got murdered in the other foot. As much as we want to make jokes now about we always see the Waynes get murdered in every single movie, it's like I don't think they've done like a proper like definitive look at how it happened.
No, you got a flashback in Batman Forever.
Yeah,
and you got this, and then you've got Batman v Superman. So we've seen 3 times across the film history. But people act like you've seen it 20 times. Yeah.
And then before I forget, Gary Oldman is Commissioner Gordon, obviously a cornerstone of this franchise as well, of these runner films anyway. Very different to Pat Hingle's version from the first run of Batman movies, where he's more of a key ally to Batman, rather than just the commissioner of the police. You know?
Yeah, I love how he gets an actual arc. Gordon gets an arc for these films just as much as Bruce and Batman, whatever. Like he's set up to be this integral character, and I also think I almost feel like Gary Oldman's performance is underrated because he does such a very normal sort of human performance that it's one of those performances that because it isn't bigger and louder or whatever in a movie with bigger and louder people, that people don't give it probably as much respect as it deserves, because Gary Oldman can do either end, you know. Like he can go fucking off the chain if he wants, but it's just a very like normal performance that you straight away like him. You're like, this Gordon guy's good. You know, they introduce him in a scene where his partner's taking money and he's like, no, I'm not into that.
Well, they introduce him like comforting Bruce Wayne.
That's true. The flashback. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, that's true. But that scene I always like because it shows that, you know, he's like, I'm not going to take the money, but I like how they have the whole thing where he's like, but I'm not a fucking snitch. So like, it says a lot about him, I guess.
So, all right. Let us know what you thought of Batman Begins. We're going to explosion.com/Twitter or jump to Discord at explosion.com/Discord. If you want to help us out here at What Do You Want to Watch, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser, or leave 5 stars on Spotify, or tell people about the show. And if you like this episode, thought it was worth $1, head on over to our Ko-fi page at explosion.com/support. Thank you very much for listening, and until next time, keep watching stuff, I guess. Can you imagine if they made this now? They would do that last scene with Jim with Gordon and Batman on the roof with the Joker card as an end credit scene. I should have actually brought that up, hey. Like, it's just literally the end of the movie.